Live streamers Fish commits credit card fraud live on stream. Adds 500. Welcome, Nerd Chatter, a weekly podcast where we discuss stories throughout the week from the film, gaming, and tech industries. Today, got my buddy Lucas. What I'm in.
What's going on, man? I'm back.
On this week's show, we take a moment of silence for Rick and Morty and go over Microsoft Developer Direct being a wet fart. But before we get going, depending on what platform you listen to the show on, make sure to follow or subscribe or hit us with that like if you're listening on YouTube. Now, you know, we got the big story of Rick and Morty and Justin Roiland, but first, I figured it'd be good to go over this Microsoft Developer Direct that we mentioned in a previous show, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, waste of time.
Just anticipating, you know, what we might
waste
get.
Of time.
But, you know, I mean, there was a little bit of something decent in there, you know. What do we have, like 4 or 5 games?
5 games. Yeah. You're going to tell me that they couldn't just do this with, like, E3 or, you know.
Yeah.
Come on.
Just squeeze it in or something like that, you know.
There's nothing special. It wasn't anything special. I didn't see anything special out of it.
Yeah, so, like, me going into it, I had this assumption that it was going to be, like, your typical big show where there's trailers and announcements and, oh, we're going to be doing this, or, oh, we're going to be putting fucking Xbox on, you know, a Steam Deck or some crazy, you know, bullshit. Yeah. But no, all we got was like a handful of trailers and no word from Bethesda or Todd Howard on Starfield.
Who's Bethesda? Who's that?
I mean, my thing is, like, I actually thought that it was going to be, you know, where like Xbox had their segment and then right afterwards it goes into Bethesda, because Bethesda has, you know, all these projects going on, you know, what have you. They did announce Elder Scrolls Online, but it wasn't like separate from the Xbox show. It was just a part of their little handful of trailers. So now it's like, okay, so where's this Starfield exclusive, you know,
everybody
show?
cannot shut up about, right?
Yeah, it's been going on, you know. So I don't know if everybody had that assumption, but that's kind of how I considered it to go down. But yeah, no word from Bethesda or Todd Howard as to when that whole showcase is going to take place, or, you know, no comment on whether or not they're going to actually deliver the game in the first half of 2023, like he pretty much doubled down not too long ago, you know, stating that this game's going to come out, you know. And have you looked into that game?
I did. When they started announcing it, I started looking into it, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty dope. And then that's when we're going to come in with the Developer Direct. We're going to do all this stuff, and it's going to have its own separate time in that Developer Direct window. But they never showed up.
Yeah.
Is project not even ready to show?
Yeah.
You know, did we get anything? No, like, update on it. That's the thing.
Nothing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just having, like, I had, like, just a complete brain fart about that whole, like, showcase, because I didn't know. I was like, oh, this is not what I expected it to be. So
the introduction was like the saddest thing I could watch. It was like, all developers, you know, assemble, and they're showing them like one by one, you know, like crossed arms in a hallway, following down the walkways, and I'm just like, what is this? Like a, you know, like a superhero introduction movie? Is just ridiculous.
It's all cringy and shit. Yeah, I didn't watch any of, like, the filler stuff. I just, because I was, you know, had the baby and stuff like that, so I was running around handling that, and I just didn't get to see the end. I basically saw the last 20 seconds. I just happened to have the opportunity to check it out, and I was like, oh, that was fast, you know. I hopped on Lyric stream like I mentioned in previous shows. I always do.
I could just imagine his commentary on it.
I mean, he's like, I guess whatever. I guess, like, it's okay. You know, which, I mean, you know, we got the games in here. What is it? We got Redfall, we got Hi-Fi Rush, Minecraft Legends, Forza Motorsports, and Elder Scrolls Online Necrom DLC. So, I mean, Redfall. You looked at Redfall, right? I didn't look too much into Redfall.
Vampire Slayer game. Basically, you run around, you know, doing tasks. It looked like a first-person shooter type thing.
It looked pretty good, to be honest. It didn't look like bad, but it looked stale.
I wouldn't mind. It looked something I would play, actually.
Yeah, but it just looks like something that you would, you know, expect.
And then, like, they showed, like, the guy, like, walking through, like, I think, like, the first mission is to put, like, a lamp in the lighthouse. They showed that. The guy's, like, basically walking through, and then the lights are off in the house, so you only have the flashlight, so it even takes away your field of vision, you know, like the
Yeah,
takes
you're
away
like
that.
narrative.
So then you basically have jump scares now. So
Oh, okay. Well, I
play
mean,
that in the dark with the headphones on. See how it goes.
I mean, you get a lot of those games though. There, it's just I don't know. It kind of feels like a little like played out by now. It just might be me being like a boomer and just
But
being like,
honestly, okay, yeah, because I had the same exact idea. Okay, because you look at half of these games that were announced, which is only 5 of them, and you take what 3 of those games, and they're just repetitive.
yeah. I
Forza
mean,
Motorsports is like what is that number 8 now?
it's well, I guess it's a reboot. To be honest, I guess we'll get to that in a second. But you know, I to be honest, like I'm all for Forza. I'll get on some Forza. The way
I mean,
that
I
they
haven't bought a
described it.
Forza in probably a good amount of years, and this is probably the one that I'll return to,
Yeah, I
just
mean, you
based on
got,
what I saw.
what's the alternate for PS5 would be
Um,
like Gran Turismo, right?
Gran Turismo, yes.
Yeah, which are be like they're both like sexy games. I always kind of get more of like an. I mean, it might be because of like Horizons. I always kind of see Forza as the more cushy, slightly more arcade, less hardcore
Arcade,
version.
right? And the other one is more the full race sim.
Yeah, but
But I think
Motorsports is not that. You know what I mean? Motorsports.
I think they're bringing this
itself
one
is-
back though to be like their full race sim.
Yeah. Well, they have
It's gonna
like
be intense.
they have the two different like branches. They have the Motorsports, which is their hardcore sim. You know, you get your wheel and you get your pedals and shit.
Everything changes, and
You know, and then they have the Horizons series, which is the incredibly cushy arcade. You know, smash into things, tear through buildings and fences and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, this is the Motorsports. It's always been the more hardcore one, but I don't know if you saw the advancements they made into. I said we're going to talk about it later. I guess we'll just talk about it now.
we might as well just jump into it now, you know?
But like you saw the advancements they did, right? With like dirt accumulation on the vehicles, texturing.
And then you have they're using their ray tracing.
Mhm,
And
they
did
got
you
the
see like the
RTX.
reflections on like that
it's super
GTR?
sexy. Yeah, it's super sexy. Like you can
Dude.
see the slight little like wiggle in paint. Just that
I was
little
like, oh
itty
my
bitty
God.
hair, yeah. But I mean, I've seen equally as impressive stuff for like the last like 5 years. You know what I mean? Whenever they show off these racing games, it always looks amazing. But when you get pulled back and you're just racing, you know, you're not noticing that shit, or
Right.
it's not as noticeably detailed when you know. But this one looked very immersive, very clean, very, polished. So
And
I mean,
it
I'm
kind
always
of feels
down.
like I always hear every time they announce like a racing game, they always do like weather changes and affects the track, and it's like
Live
okay,
weather.
I've already heard that before. You
Yeah.
You
Well, they
just
have
kind
like
of tweaked it a little bit.
supposedly got like the dynamic weather and randomly generated like clouds.
Yeah,
and stuff
clouds.
Like that,
Clouds are gonna change. Like I'm gonna pay attention to that in the background.
I mean,
Trying to get
if
first
those
place,
clouds
that
are what like trigger like rain and snow and sleet and,
And
stuff like
track
that,
temp, right?
like
'Cause,
like
if
that
it's
might be
not
cool.
cloudy.
And the way that they're putting it, it's a lot more like those things are more critical to how it actually plays. So I mean, I'm down. Whatever. Did you see the Hi-Fi Rush?
I'm not.
What was
There's a
that?
kid with an iPod in his chest that basically like powers him up or something. And he
Yeah,
has
I
like a
mean-
guitar for like an arm. And I was like Iron Man with Guitar Hero mashed together.
So I mean, it's a mash. It's a hack and slash type of game, but it has a rhythm aspect to it. So you get a little bit of like fight to the beat type of
Yeah, if you
of
have no
gameplay.
rhythm, this game is
Yeah,
not for you apparently.
you're fucked completely. But like, the art style looked clean. The animation looked clean. It looked more of like Jet Set Radio. Reminded me of Jet Set Radio from back in the day. Maybe even like a little bit of like Crazy Taxi, but clean. Some of the best animation I've seen in that art style. And that's like bringing in like DBZ and stuff like that. Dragon Ball, Budokai.
Yeah.
What's that one? Xenoverse and all those. So, I mean, impressive. And I guess, we were just bitching about shit being the same, but I mean, that's pretty unique. It might not be our cup of tea.
It was
but I
just
mean,
the story, I guess, I was getting off of it. I was like, this isn't really something I would want to play.
Yeah. Then you got Minecraft Legends, which is like baby shit,
Here's
It's-
is this their first PvP multiplayer?
Yes, I think. It might be PvE. I'm not sure. It looked like your exploration RPG, kill the mobs, loot, that type of game. But we were talking about it. I'm not 100% sure on how much Mojang has involvement in in making this one in particular.
I kind of felt like they owned.
Well, yeah, like they
like,
do.
Here comes Mojang announcing this.
Well, they pop up as the developer, but also it was like I forget. We mentioned the other developer, but typically how these little offshoot games work is like they bring in another developer to do the heavy lifting for this game that doesn't really feel like the original content that Mojang is responsible for. I think Dungeons, I think that's what the game was called, was made by a different studio and just kind of overseen by Mojang. So it might be one of those. However, this one, the art style did look a lot more similar to the original Minecraft game. And gameplay was like, whatever. It's something for the kids. Then the last one on there was Elder Scrolls Online Necrom DLC. And I don't play Elder Scrolls. I know you don't play Elder Scrolls Online.
Definitely not.
I don't think RPGs or MMORPGs would be like your shit, right?
My cup of tea on that one, yeah.
Some of them are fun, It depends on what kind of battle system they got going on and how immersive it is. My jam was Black Desert Online, which I've never experienced a game so like ridiculously deep in my life, and not like story and like fighting, and it's like everything else. Like you could do whatever if you wanted an entire like game of you just fishing and selling fish in that game, you could make like an entire career out of that shit in that game. Same thing with like cooking and farming and all this shit. There's complete flushed out game systems of all these little sub games that you can partake in. It's like I got up to a certain level and I retired to a farmer and I just sit there and make a fuck ton of money and buy the shit that I want. But Elder Scrolls Online is like one of the handful that have actually survived fighting WoW. Essentially they're fighting World of Warcraft. It's what every MMORPG does, is they're always going up against
the
fucking
level
WoW.
up to that one.
And we always used to talk shit about WoW. Remember what was that chick's name that we worked with? Her husband was like a super fucking crazy WoW nerd and shit.
Oh my god, yeah.
Katie, I think it was. Was that her name? I forget.
It was.
The food and beverage chick. But yeah, her husband was like so like neckbeard, and she was always pissed off at him because all he did was play WoW and shit. But looking back, it's like, well, I guess it's a game that's actually survived that long. So in the nerd world, right. It's like being tenured in that game is kind of like, he is probably like a G now in that game.
It's not something I'd be very proud of.
Some people do, you know what I mean? Some people, it's like their life, I know Elder Scrolls has no lifers like that, same thing with like Final Fantasy, which Final Fantasy had like a dope story with how that whole thing was developed. You probably never heard the story, but they released Final Fantasy like online or whatever, and it was like dog shit. People played it because it was Final Fantasy and it was an MMO, and it was like, well, I don't like WoW, so I'm gonna play this. And the game got to a point where it was out for like a year or two, and people were just so dissatisfied with it, and the devs were dissatisfied with it, that they had an in-game extinction event that completely destroyed everything. It wiped everybody's. It was like an event, like a cinematic, kind of like how Fortnite does. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think like a comet or something came in and like destroyed the world and shit. And then what they did was that they shut down the servers for a period of time, and when they brought the servers back up, it was a completely different game, like different everything. It was like a new, completely different game, and that's the one that people play now, and it does like really, really well. And Elder Scrolls Online is just kind of like in that same category of games that has like, they've toughed it out. So, people that are into Elder Scrolls are getting a new DLC, and I can't comment on the story and the plot.
And they're getting a new class. They said the Arcanist. Yeah. I have no idea what that is. This is all stuff that I just saw. So I've never played this one. So I'm the one that's living under a rock.
I mean, that's like, once you get out into that, it's a big pit to fall into.
And I don't want to get in that pit.
Those games require you to play like hundreds of hours to be.
Is this like that game, that streamer that you were telling me about, where that dude just like has a bunch of trash in his room?
No, that's WoW. I mean, that's Asmongold that we're talking about.
Okay.
Shit, yeah. No, he's the WoW god.
I mean, he literally makes millions of dollars, but pisses
millions of
him off all the
dollars
time.
and lives in his mom's house. That's very
So disgusting. That picture is so gross.
very
Dude.
gross. And just he lives in his own filth and shit. Wears the same shirt for like a week and a half
Oh my
straight, and
god,
like
I could smell him through the picture.
and that's just
It's
that's
like
just the life.
frankincense on a
He's
hot summer day.
a true
times
warrior.
10, yeah. A true warrior.
Fully committed. And shit. I
Yeah,
mean,
I can't make fun of him too much. The only fact is that he's making 10 times to probably like 100 million times more than what I'm making.
Yeah, we digress. Elder Scrolls Online, it's a decent game. I have played it a little bit, but I wasn't about that life as much at that point. You know what I mean? But you're getting a DLC, so good on you. Todd Howard and Starfield. I mean, that triggers me because Starfield is like the other game that I plan on buying. It's like a 70% buy for me. I don't even know where you stand.
I'd have to see it more. I don't know.
You do need to see more. I understand the concept. It's like in my brain, I take Fallout, where you traverse areas and you interact with NPCs and you have dialogue to learn information and proceed and do tasks and missions and shit. And then this is blown out into a scale where you travel to different planets, and those planets will have that type of game, and you land and you traverse and you communicate and you move on, that type of thing. There's supposed to be like 1,000 planets. So it's like, I need to see what's going on, because that sounds like a never ending game, but I doubt it's going to be something like that.
Just imagine when they keep on updating it and updating it. You just never finish.
Yeah, you have a 500 gigabyte game by the time you're done with shit. So and they just pour one out for the Starfield homies out there. That was pretty bad. We were all like duped, but
they were literally like that commercial where the guy has the dollar on the fishing pole. He's like, "Oh, you got it, you almost got it."
Pulling it in and shit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, come on, man. This was like, honestly, all of this could have been announced at the Game Awards.
Oh yeah.
Xbox, Microsoft did not have to go out and say we're doing our own. Like this didn't need to be done.
And then Bethesda being like, "Well, it's going to be so big, we need our own event." And shit. Like, get the fuck out of here! Like, get out of here.
It's gonna be a 10-minute thing. Like, here's our game.
It's pretty bad. One thing they didn't mention there at the Microsoft Developer Direct was any Squanch games.
Oh God. I think rest in peace, Squanch games. Everything's just done.
I don't know about Squanch games in particular.
If you haven't heard, I mean, this past week it was pretty bad. It was YouTube was just going off. Almost every big nerd community type thing in YouTube was just dropping video after video. You just scroll down and it was like released 10 minutes ago, released an hour ago. Yeah. All the same news. But if you haven't heard or seen, if you're not on the Twitter, Justin Roiland basically and Adult Swim cut ways, or basically, as you can think about it, Adult Swim fired Justin Roiland.
The verbiage didn't really apply. It didn't really imply too much into the whole like we fired him type shit.
Yeah, but they fired him. They're like, we don't want to touch this. This is just a hot mess. Like you could see like the pot boiling with the lid like teetering on top, where it's just like, and Adult Swim's like, okay, no, turn it off. If you haven't heard, this week Roiland was charged with domestic violence and keeping his girlfriend against her will.
Yeah.
I forgot the real verbiage though, of the legal verbiage. I forgot what that was called, but he's trying to come out as the more creepy.
Yeah.
As time goes on and things start to come to the surface. So right now, this all happened. Accusations all happened in, I think it was 2020. Now that all this stuff started coming about, she is taking him to trial. And he actually pleaded not guilty to any of the accusations. What did we say? We were talking about it last time or earlier, that him resigning from all these spots doesn't look good for him.
Yeah, him resigning is not a good sign in the terms of like, well, maybe it's not true. It's like, there's like a little bit of guilt.
I'm going not guilty, but by the way, I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah, I'm not guilty, but
so,
I don't want my reputation to tarnish this company. Jeez.
So yeah, I mean, the Adult Swim, like we said, just didn't want to touch any of it. They didn't want to dance around it. This is pretty much where they're now going about. I think we're coming into season 7 of Rick and Morty, which, man, this is like my top, entertainment.
Lucas loves Rick and Morty.
I love Rick and Morty. I mean, you walk into my house, I got Rick and Morty everywhere, and Liz does not like it, but I took it over. And I got a skateboard deck hanging, in the living room.
He's got
Rick and Morty.
he's got the bed sheets and shit, the fucking
Hey, man,
pillowcases.
I got the comforter. I got the Rick and Morty pillowcases.
Yeah,
They're like his and hers.
Yeah. Hers all normal. It's just a basic pillow, and she just sleeps on her own blanket.
But so it's for me. This is like the end of Rick and Morty. It's kind of one of those things where like you watch something for a long time, you're so used to it, and then a different voice comes out.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this? What just happened? And this is what's gonna happen. So they're looking for new voices for Rick and Morty. If you have a Rick and Morty sounding voice, you should probably hit up Dan Harmon.
And keep it to yourself, for fuck's sake. Please do not post it on Twitter. Nobody gives a fuck about your impersonation.
The reels on Instagram right now are just
shit. Stop.
Too much, man.
It makes me die inside a little every single time.
I've scrolled through and you hear, oh jeez, and a fake burp, and it's just like, okay, you need to stop.
Send it to the studio. Don't send it to the internet, please. Nobody wants to see your shit. Either that or don't use your face. Don't talk into the camera. It's weird.
But like with all this stuff that came about, I think the worst of the worst was not even him keeping his girlfriend probably in a dungeon locked up, chained to a radiator.
That could be that.
But the weird text messages that came out that are surfacing. And they were sent to a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And I guess he was trying to play on the fact that he was coming out as Morty.
What? What do you mean? Like that was his inner his
that was like his inner thing that when he was texting this little she's a teenager, and I don't know if you could even repeat some of those text messages, but they were just really weird. And I guess his idea was like, oh, I was just playing as Morty, like in real life. And it's like,
yeah, dude, right.
That's a little weird, dog.
Right.
Now your creepiness just went from a 5 to like an 8.
Yeah, you're like a solid 8, maybe 8.2.
And who knows if this guy was like super hammered while he was writing,
oh,
sending
100%.
all these texts.
I promise you he was. Allegedly.
I promise you allegedly. He's a working alcoholic.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I don't even want to say functional, but he definitely, his job is to be drunk. I mean, you watch and I told you this, where it's like, I saw the behind the scenes, like in season 2 or whatever, where he's in the booth and he's just tanked.
Yeah.
And he's trying to repeat lines and he's being belligerent and pissed off and shit. And like, he's recording and then like, it kind of just moves on. I was like, it was like noon. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
We'll do it again.
And he's doing like the burps and all this shit. It's like he was legit smashed when he was like doing recording.
What do you call that type of acting where like you immerse yourself?
Method acting.
There you go. So he's a method actor.
Yeah, he's a method actor.
There you go. He's not an alcoholic. He's a method actor.
I promise you that's what he like thought.
That episode called for Rick to be drunk and to wake up drunk, and he woke up drunk. And
he just so happens to be drunk in every single moment of the show.
I want that job.
I mean, it really doesn't work out very well if you have it.
Dan Harmon, hit me up.
I want to be drunk on the job.
I want to be drunk. I can be drunk. So this leads to Dan Harmon being the sole creator. I know they always say that, Roiland and Harmon are always the co-creators, but when you really think about it, Harmon is the real creator. And Roiland's just like that little sidekick that just happens to do all the voices for majority of not majority, I mean a lot of the voices in the program. I mean, he's the background voices of a character in the far background that's like, oh man.
I've heard that like Dan Harmon's writing by himself is like trash. I can't like confirm because I've never seen it, but people have made the comment where they're concerned about Roiland not being involved because Harmon like left alone is like incredibly boring, and like you could tell just based on like how he does interviews and like his charisma level, like he's very bland, you know. So it's like unless that's just it's conveyed completely different on the paper, like he might need that Roiland weirdness to be able.
I think this was like his. I think Roiland's like his. What do they call it? The yang to the yin.
His muse.
Because he just basically makes Harmon's writing come to life.
Yeah,
make it more lively.
I mean, we'll see. I doubt the new voice actor is going to have any type of input.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No. He's gonna just whip him, like say this line, do it again, do it again.
I mean, some of the. I mean, yeah, we can't mention a lot of the supposed text. We can always. I like to, in this particular case, steer away from like the written shit and focus on like things that he said and like the implications of it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's mentioned it, those could be faked. You can't. I'm not. I have no say as to whether or not they're real or not.
You think the sex slave text was real?
I mean, if he was drunk, I mean, none of that seemed out of reason. You know what I mean? All of that sounded like something he would probably say if he was drunk and just like acting a fool and shit. But you can't really, you can't be 100% sure until it comes out as to whether or not they're real or not. And possibly in court to like, they're going to have to flush all that shit out. But mine is like the podcast where he's talking about like young girls and eagerly waiting and like all this like creeper shit. And he's not saying it in like a lighthearted joking way. He's saying it in a joking way that is like confident and
like, this is what I really think, but I'm just gonna play it off as a joke.
And he's like, if I just say it with confidence, nobody's gonna say. They'll just chuckle and we'll move on. And like that's what they did, But now people are looking back. Shit's creepy. He says some weird shit.
Now you got people like listening to the podcast. They're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Listen to it in a different light,
I was in the same room with this guy.
It's like a Kanye CD and shit. And go back and listen to it in a different light and shit.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Whoa.
He said Nazi backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're on track to complete season 7. Like we said, they're looking for the voices. If anything, bring back, where they did Bushworld Adventures, which was like, I think it was like a April Fool's joke, where they dropped this episode and it was this really, really, it looked like a child drew it kind of type of
like
animation.
Really completely different version.
Yeah. And if you're kind of watching it, I feel bad if you're watching this on acid or something. It's really, really bad.
It's like one of those like Adult Swim shows and shit.
Yeah, that's basically what it was Adult Swim took Bushworld Adventures and he had an Aussie accent. They just bring that back. That was funny.
Yeah.
Don't go stretching out for something you can't. Don't try to mimic it. Anything else.
How long was that break between like season 3 and 4 or whatever it was? Wasn't there like 2 or 3 years?
It was like a 2 year. Yeah. People were even scared because they were like, "This is not coming back."
Yeah, and I remember when they did come back, they're like, "Oh no, we're back and bigger and better than ever, and we're gonna be here for a decade more."
Yeah,
10 very seasons. Confident shit, and that's the first thing that came back to my mind when I heard all this shit going on. I was like, damn, like these dudes were like, don't know if we're gonna make the show, to then being like, we're gonna make this show until the end of time, and then this happens. It's like, what are you doing?
Now it's done. This is done.
Yeah,
and
it's done.
Season 8, if they keep on carrying it, just stop at season 7. There's just no more.
I mean, and then you got Squanch Games, where it's like the pool for any type of funding probably is because of his involvement.
Right.
And knowing that his voice is going to be laid over the game. And now, what are they going to do? Are they going to make just random games? Is it going to putter out because people just don't want to even think about the dude? Like, are they going to rename and just kind of like move on? I don't even know.
The crappy thing is like these are all allegations. Whatever happened to innocent till proven guilty?
Yeah, I mean,
we're already like hanging the guy, and this is. I get it. There's some evidence out there that proves that he's creepy, and
again, it would be a noteworthy thing to say if he wasn't like resigning himself and shit. You know what I mean? And not. He's saying nothing, and he's just like,
his actions are proving that he's fucked up.
Yeah, his actions are definitely a lot more telling than him being like, no, I didn't do it. It probably was Adult Swim approached him. I mean, you got to take into consideration, again, this is 2020, so it's like, who knew about this? You know what I mean? Like,
a lot of people.
If a lot of people knew about it, and like, the studio themselves knew about it, and Harmon knew about it, and they're just
but Harmon has his own little skeletons in a closet.
He's got them. I told you, like, it's just like it was creeper, dude. I saw that dude in like a zip up like sweater with like no shirt on underneath. I was like, all right, I don't get good vibes off of this dude. I don't know if
you like ever noticed at the end of every episode they show, it's like him, the dog, and he was like either at the beginning of season 1 they were like in bed. It was him, a female, and a dog, right? So it's like the closing credit.
What the fuck?
Or like the production.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so every episode they show this, right? So they're watching TV, and then it ends the program. As I think it was season 2 to season 3, the female disappeared, and it was just him on the couch now with the dog. So this was actually Dan Harmon. This is what I've read into. It was actually Dan Harmon showing his life as it goes on. So I think it was like his wife or his girlfriend had left him, so that's why she had disappeared, and he was sleeping on the couch now with the dog. And then I think they got back together, so now they're back in bed watching TV with the dog at the foot of the bed.
What? That's weird.
Yeah. I actually got that deep into it. I never thought I would.
Yeah, like I watch it on streaming platforms, and it's pretty much as soon as credits start rolling, it just 5 seconds or whatever, right? It goes straight to the next episode. So it must have cut off.
Speaking of streaming platforms, I think Hulu even dropped Roiland too.
Yeah.
I think everything is just going really down south for him.
Oh no, he's done. He's full blown canceled. There's no coming back from it, even if it's
culture shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's more so the fact that people get like erections over it and shit. Like back in the day, it was like just that's terrible. Let's seek some justice. And then now it's just like they actively look for it because it gives them boners. They like destroying people, and like some people sad, rightfully do need to be destroyed, but the whole like court of a public opinion and actual court, it's like once there's shit going on, it's just like, all right, well, take a back seat. You know what I mean? Like let the court decide, and then crucify the guy afterwards if that's the case. But and just like wait until it's calmed down to hear what actually happened, because when shit's going down, it's always like difficult to track shit. You know what I mean? So like I'm definitely like on the whole like wait for shit to come out, but like I said, the podcasts and some of the things that he said and those text messages, if they're actually real, pretty fucked up. Pretty definitely not cool and worth the internet to like jump down his back and shit a little bit.
But I mean, if you just watch this show, the Rick and Morty, you already know that both of them are already fucked up as it is. So
yeah,
it's not a surprise of what's going on, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely,
except for the kidnapping or whatever you want to call that.
I think the fucked up part comes up on when it's like they're belligerent, they're drunk as fuck, and they're saying like crazy shit. They decide to keep it in the show because it's funny. You know what I mean? It's funny,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a kid's show. That's the good thing, like
some of the stuff that I guess you hear in the show is a little gross now, knowing like some more context. Is that gonna bug you, like looking back at old episodes and like rewatching shit?
Yeah. It's now I'm actually, like we said, like if you were to re-listen to a Kanye West album, you're gonna be like, oh. Like, so now I'm gonna be watching old Rick and Morty's back from season 1 and be like,
yeah,
I get what, like now I get it.
Bad taste in the mouth.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just ruined a lot of stuff for me, and it's very sad. I'm very sad right now.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm still in the headspace where it's totally like fine to appreciate the show. But it's totally understandable if the shit is legit, why people would be like, fuck this guy, and like never have him come back or be seen again in the public eye. Just get that dude in jail and like yada
yada. Why do you have to be a creep though? That's the thing.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
He has flying like just above everybody, having this awesome show that just has this cult following, and then you go and just fucking ruin it.
A full-blown like fanatic following.
I mean, me and my buddy drove down to San Diego to, I think it was Modern Times, to go catch the Rickmobile. That's all crazy.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in high school I drove to Westwood to stand in line for 6 or 7 hours to get Kevin Smith's autograph, and now I think the dude is like.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, I just can't. That's a different person. It's not the same person at all. Definitely not in that same category, but you know what I mean. Like, you like things, and it's like crushing. Mine, I guess, in this comparison, would be Smallville, right? Because you have.
Yeah, that was your big following.
That was my thing. Yeah, I was huge into Smallville. Not even going to get into that detail. I think I already have, but it's like with Allison Mack and the whole like Nexium thing. I mean, have you ever looked into that?
Mm-mm.
Like literally just a guy like essentially brainwashing people to go and recruit women for him to like fuck and shit. And Allison Mack was like,
that's bad.
Well, I mean, Allison Mack was like the most fanatical of them. Like this guy was like the second coming of Christ type shit. So he had like a cult aspect to it.
Oh, okay.
Like living together and like
Drink the
this
Kool-Aid.
and that, and they're like catering to him and shit. And then they had like a secret branch of it where the women would get branded with wood burning tools.
What?
With his initials, and then from a different angle, it was Allison Mack's initials. And Allison Mack played Chloe in Smallville, so she was just like never really in anything else. A couple other stuff, and then you don't hear from her, and then randomly she's just this crazy person at the top of this pyramid, like towards the top of this pyramid of these creepers like recruiting young actresses to be this guy's like sex slaves and shit. Full-blown branding and having to call people master and them being referred to as slaves and all this crazy shit. I definitely recommend it. If you see I think it's on Netflix, but there's a Netflix about Nexium. It's like NXIUM or something like that. I don't know, it's spelled weird. You search Allison Mack and documentary, and whichever one is like the biggest, because it's pretty crazy, pretty fucking crazy. So it's like, needless to say, I can't really watch them in the same light as I did growing up. So I mean, I think it's going to be like the same shit with Rick and Morty here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm done. I cried the other night. Just kind of held my Funko Pops and
tore down your posters and shit.
Tore down, yeah. You burn this motherfucker down.
I mean, hold on to it. That shit might be.
Oh, I know.
If it all gets pushed out of like public view, like and people forget about it after a couple decades, that shit might be worth some money. You never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to them. They're not going anywhere. I'm not that type of fan that's like, burn it all down and melt it, and do a TikTok of like, fuck you to Roiland.
Yeah.
You piece of shit. Like, he already knows he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But he was a funny piece of shit, and that's what I like.
Yeah, my thing, I kind of always had like creeper vibes since that behind the scenes, so I'm not too surprised.
Real quick, have you been watching The Last of Us?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of the last episode?
Pretty good. Again, I haven't played The Last of Us. I've only watched streams of gameplay of it. Like a lot, actually. More than most games. Just because at one point it was a game that everybody was playing, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I was watching all the cutscenes and all the gameplay and the decisions you make and shit like that, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I can't comment on in the sense that it's like, oh, that's from the game, and oh, that's exactly where that needs to be and all that, Yeah. I do know that, I recall areas, and that the way that they're like shooting this show is like super impressive in that regard, you know what I mean?
They're saying that this might be the the one that breaks the what do they call it, the game to film curse.
Yeah, like the curse. And then you had people online be like, there is no such thing as a curse. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro?
Dude, have you seen other game renditions to movies? It's really bad.
Watch Resident Evil, like any of them. Watch Resident Evil, you fuck.
What are you talking about? Watch that one.
Jesus, like they're horrible. All of them are horrible, and it's rightfully the best one so far. I mean, mainly because you have the guy who made the game, one of the guys who made the game involved,
Yeah. And I think that's what's helping.
Yeah.
That's kind of like having like your medical expert on a medical show, calling out bullshit when
don't
like,
say
no,
that.
that doesn't make sense. Don't do that.
That doesn't make sense. Don't say that. Don't,
I wish I could be that. I wish I could literally do that. I try to watch medical shows on TV, and it's just really hard to watch.
Well, I mean, it's like Hacksaw shit, like the hacker guy sitting at a table on his little computer, and like what you see on the screen is like just not what any of that shit looks like.
Zeros and ones.
They show like a web browser, and it's so janky and shit.
It's the Matrix wallpaper, just
Yeah, exactly. It's just like ticking and shit. And they're just like tapping away at some DOS looking fucking 1989. Yeah. We got more news about The Last of Us actually in the roundup here, and I guess we'll move on to the free game segment. Every week there's always something free or heavily discounted out there, and last week we had some decent stuff, and I think if you listen to that show, a couple things might still be on sale, so listen to that free game segment. But this week on Epic Game Store, free until February 2nd, is Adios. That's a first-person narrated story experience. It's kind of like hard to explain, but it's one of those games that you probably play for like 10-15 minutes and then forget about forever. No, it's not. Yeah, like with that name you would think.
Right?
The other one is Hell is Others, free on Epic Game Store until February 2nd as well. That's a top-down horror-themed extraction PvPvE shooter with kind of like a pixel art. It's a high-res pixel art, but pretty decent-looking game.
Can you break that down? Can Can you break down that PvPv?
It's PvPvE is PvP, so it's a game where people fight against one another, kind of like any other, like, I don't know, BR or game like that. And then PvE is like NPCs and stuff like that. So if you have a PvE game, kind of like I mean, I don't even want to dig into my brain to think of one, but it's where you're fighting like hordes, or you're fighting like enemies in the game. It's a multiplayer game, but you're not fighting one another. You're fighting whatever the game is throwing at you. And then PvP,
this is like what they did for what do you call it? Call of Duty.
I think they did, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Like you have bots come in and
yeah. I mean, if you can kill one another on top of that, it's a PvPvE. If you can only kill one another, kind of like a BR, that's a PvP. Just like a TDM or King of the Hill or any other thing, it's a PvP because it's two people.
There's just a lot of letters in that, and I just got really.
It's a weird one, yeah. But that's the one where, it's like, think of a BR, but there's also like AI running around that you gotta fight as well. They've done that in the past, where it's like you fight AI and it draws the attention of other players, so it's like you're gonna fight them as well. That's a PvPvE. So I mean, this one's like a top-down. It's a retro style. Looks like a small studio. So I mean, if you're into that type of stuff, give it a shot. These are definitely some low-key ones. I think next week they have a decent game popping up. So you have to listen to next week's show for that one. I thought I saw it. I just don't remember. But that is it for the free games this week. No heavy big deals on Steam or anything like that. But moving on to the roundup, not too much going on here either. It's been a pretty light week, which is not too bad after last week's pretty beefy show, which somebody had an issue with.
I'm just saying.
Bro. Live streamers Fish commits credit card fraud live on stream. Adds 500 adds 500 yen of funds to their Nintendo account. Purchases new profile picture. Downloads the N64 emulator app, and then blasts their credit card information on stream. Discuss.
Wow. Wow.
So basically, the streamer does the thing where they have like they have the system where it's like,
oh shit, I'm on stream right now. I totally forgot.
The fish is like swimming around, and based on where it swims, controls the game. Kind of like Twitch plays Pokemon, chat tells the game what to do, and it's a fucking dumpster fire. But they get shit done. It just takes a decade. This is the same thing, but it's fish interacting with this custom board that allows them to control what's on the screen. They're playing Pokemon Violet, and then the game crashed. So he was just let loose in the main menu and managed to go in and make purchases and download shit and like send him like a PayPal notification. Just went fucking ham, and then ended up like blasting all his credit card information on the stream before the guy came back from taking a shit or whatever. But yeah, it was pretty funny. I saw that headline.
What did he do to that fish? What did he do to that fish that this fish had to come back and fuck him over?
It's the breadwinner, bro. He's probably left that fool alone and shit. He's like, all right, hey, whatever, bro. Like, it's $3.99. I'm not that mad, but now I got to get a new credit card and shit. Chill out. But yeah, I mean, there you go. That's the state of Pokemon Violet, though. It's crashing and shit. That's what I took away from that. I think
that's been since the release, right? It's basically been unstable.
Yeah, it's been fucking garbage. But
I don't play Pokemon, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's an okay game. It's not like Pokemon in the past and shit. You'd play that, and it'd be a lot more like something you'd play on a console and be like, whatever. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, like I never jumped in Pokemon Go and all that stuff. So.
Oh, it was all about that shit growing up. Amazon announces Tomb Raider movie and additional video games to share an interconnected universe with their TV series. I mentioned that not too long ago that they're getting a TV series because there was some switching of hands of like who owns it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Amazon landed with it, and they're just gonna blow it out. So you're gonna see so much Tomb Raider shit in the upcoming like decade, bro. It's gonna be overwhelming. Like there's gonna be
Amazon's
a lot
coming up though. I mean,
they're picking up some shit.
Yeah,
they're picking up some decent shit as long as they can deliver. Because the whole like was it Lord of the Rings was a fucking travesty. Like
I watched the first episode and I was done.
It's like Lord of the Rings just gets worse as time goes on. It's like the original trilogy, sick. Hobbit trilogy, pretty fucking bad. Pretty bad. And then the show was, the Rings of Power was just garbage. And it's like so hyped to like hear, because the story of all that stuff before like the original trilogy, like before the Hobbit, all the history and the thousands of years or whatever and the different ages there's interesting shit there. And then instead of like actually delivering that, they're just like, well, we're gonna make our own story. And
Amazon just wanted their own Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and
they
failed.
Well, I mean, you got like The Last of Us, which is like proving, if you just leave it alone and you deliver what people already love, like it'll just attract more people, and then it'll make those people
do that?
Exactly. And speaking of Last of Us, they get greenlit for season 2, so that's
Thank
coming.
God.
I'm not sure if we want to discuss the spoilers for episode 2 of the
Well,
game.
episode 2 is already done, so I mean, that was what, last week?
No, I meant the game.
Oh, the game.
2, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
Part 2.
But I think, you know what, though? A lot of people in this series, and a lot of people that I talk to at work who are into like TV shows and stuff, they never played the game.
Yeah,
So
which is why I don't
they're
want to
just
like get too much into details with the second game, because what happens in the first few minutes of the second game is going to pretty much destroy 90% of the people watching the show.
Yeah.
So it's like you can already see that it's going to piss off people, and that it's just people are just going to drop like flies. So I'm kind of concerned with the fact that they're just cramming the entire first game into the first season. And it's like, what did they get greenlit for a third season?
I don't think they were expecting season 2, to be honestly. I mean, what
the fuck ever, bro? Like, they know
what they had
had
announced was like, hey, if this doesn't go off, we're not doing season 2, and that's HBO is HBO.
Yeah,
where they just cancel whatever shows they wanted to cancel.
It was pretty tumultuous at that point too.
So once they saw episode 2 got a shit ton of viewers, episode 1 was huge.
Yeah, it's like the second biggest.
I think we're
showing
onto something. But like you said, as long as they don't mess this up, you already have the layout for you. It's done.
Yeah.
Now take it from an animation and put it into real life film, and you're good to go. Like,
recreate the scenes, and they made some changes in the show that
they were slight changes, but but if you match up frame to frame of the game and almost of the actual series
environments and stuff,
it's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Arcade 1UP announces Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade cabinet, and I put this on here because it's fucking epic. It features Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of Atom, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, and Marvel Superhero War of the Gems, and it retails for $600.
Oh my god.
Those last like half of those games are like your side scroller fun, arcade games,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles type?
Yeah, that type of side scroller. And then you have like the kings of fighting games, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is like perceived to be like one of the best fighting games ever made. And this is a small cabinet. It's tiny. They go about your chest in overall height if you don't have the extension on it. You put the extension on it and it'll raise it to where if you have a stool, you could sit on it comfortably, and you can chill and have this in your house.
Oh, this is like a physical thing.
Yeah, it's an actual arcade cabinet. Oh, you never see the arcade 1UPs? They have them for
yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think.
Yeah,
I think they released the Simpsons one. Those are my favorite games. The Simpsons, the Ninja Turtles, Streets of Rage wasn't necessarily arcade. That was like console and shit. But I love those side-scroller beat-em-ups. I just recently bought Scott Pilgrim for like the second time because I wanted it on my Switch. Back in the day, like Castle Crashers and shit like that.
Oh, they sell them at Walmart.
They do sell them at Walmart, yeah. So, I mean, these are not
my
like...
sister gave me a discount.
They have a Golden Tee one, too.
They have an NFL Blitz?
Mm-hmm. These are sick. And if you understand, like, how... It's a meme cabinet, essentially. You know what I mean?
Right, like an emulator.
Yeah, it's an emulator. It's not... It doesn't have... Because the way that those old games used to work is they had the boards in there, and the boards played the game. You know what I mean? If anything was modified on the boards, it would reflect on the game. This is obviously a small little Raspberry Pi in there that, is it has an entire system set up to where you would, you walk up to it and you interact with it as if it were an old classic arcade machine. But this one is like epic. This is like the one, you know what I mean, that like you want to get if you're into like fighting games. This is like so it. Like Marvel's Capcom 2 especially, dude, like insane. And then you got X-Men versus Street Fighter. That was another big one. Yeah, if you got the money,
and all those games will be in one.
Yeah, in one device. I mean, I'm not saying that like $600 is cheap, obviously, but if you're gonna buy one of these like $400 to $600 cabinets, like this is probably like the one you want to get, you know what I mean? And then what you could do with
Oh.
it from there on out, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some fuckery that you can get into.
Yeah, you probably hack the shit
You
out of
probably
this
can
thing and
lock
just
that shit.
run
Yeah.
a bunch of other games. I mean, oh man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is sold out.
Yeah, it's a beast. I mean, also you take into consideration that if you look into it, which I have, like the price of building your own cabinet is it's not cheap. It's quite expensive. The cabinet itself is just something that needs to be made. You know what I mean? It's not something you can just go buy. You can go track down old beat up ones and gut them, but you know those things are huge, and really unless you're gonna buy like a traditional arcade stand up, you know you're gonna want something slimmer. So I've always been a big supporter of these arcade one ups. I just wish that the price was a little bit lower.
Want this Terminator 2 one?
With the gun on it,
Yeah, dude.
hell yeah. That game was dope as fuck too.
And it's on sale for $500.
Yeah, did they have a pod racer game? I forget. They have. I mean, they're not fucking around with like the games that they're choosing. They're not picking like just like Pac-Man and like Asteroids and shit. They're going after like the more monumental games from like our childhood and shit. The shit that you would actually see if you go into the mall arcade and you know have to throw down. Yeah,
the good times.
Back when you don't have to worry about too much.
Where like the joystick was all sticky from like Slurpees and candy and shit.
Just imagine that shit. Oh my god. I have arcades at my local mall, but
remember we used to go eat?
what
Was it Sushi in Upland?
Oh, and the arcade next door. What was that?
I forgot the name of it. I think it's gone.
Some James Games.
James Games, yeah.
James Games. Yeah, it's gone. I looked at that not too long ago. I was right across the street from Upland High. That was a pad. That shit was dope. I mean, it was very small, but it was just one of those little holes in the ground. They got that one over by Cal Poly too that I think was like one of 2 locations in the country that got the Street Fighter 4 arcade machine when that game came out. So that place was just like exploding, dude. Like super exploding. D&D Superstars Critical Role lands a multi-year TV and first look film deal with Amazon for their new animated series Mighty Nine. I think it's like their second campaign or something. I don't know. I've told you I've watched them. You're not into that shit at all, but like
Mighty Nine. So like 9 as in like
nine.
no?
As a no. You know, there's all voice actors. Ironically enough, I forget her name, but one of the
this is the one you guys were talking about, the voice actor for The Last of Us, right?
Yeah, she does Ellie's voice. She's the original Ellie voice. So when you see like the red carpet, it's the chick
who's
that
actually
does,
coming back into the series. Actually,
I think everybody. Like it's just all of them. It's just their thing. You know what I mean? For them to just essentially play D&D in like the dopest setting that you can possibly do for that type of game, you know, because they got the money, they got the studio and shit. Just to go and have like fun and like make money, and now it's like, okay, well the story you guys are making is good enough to where we can adapt this into you know, an actual television show. And this, I think the reason why Critical Role didn't mention too much when the Wizards of the Coast was doing their fuckery, which I don't have in here, and we'll mention it here in a second, but is because they are landing like TV deals and landing movie shit based off of the D&D world, but Wizards wasn't making any money from that. You know what I mean? It's like people are going to watch that and think D&D because that's the world that it exists in, but it has no real tangible connection to the company that makes D&D. You know what I mean? So they actually backpedaled on that. Wizards of the Coast completely just took a step back from that. They're like, okay, we won't do it. But originally what they were going to do was like basically charge the shit out of people that were using their rights to make money. After a certain like threshold, it was like a lot of money, but like after a certain threshold, you'd have to pay up like 20% or some shit like that. And
do you think like this all D&D stuff is like a huge thing from Stranger Things?
What do you mean?
The D&D. You think like this whole hype of D&D popping back up because that was the whole hype in Stranger Things. The D&D is now coming like
like the Demogorgon and shit like that. Demogorgon is an actual. I would say that was probably a good resurgence of public exposure for the game, but much like Warhammer, those little pocket niche, you know, groups have been very strong. D&D has, I don't think his D&D has kind of like dampered in popularity in that clique. You know what I mean? Like, you not having any direct connection to that clique, you're not going to hear about it at all.
Right.
But people that like that, their go-to is D&D. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I like RP. I like getting on like games and like role playing and saying stupid shit in the mic and fucking with people and all that. You know what I mean? So I can understand like people wanting to go, but I just don't like the corny level of like dramatic storytelling in that. You know what I mean? Same thing with people that play like Grand Theft Auto and do that type of role play. It's like, I hate it when they get serious. It always has to be funny, stupid, and like absurd. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just rolling around pulling people over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You really want to the endless stories I have about that shit. So I mean, I can totally tell that, you know, it's on the upswing. I just think that's one of those like nerds are taking over, you know.
It does feel like that though, because a lot of the TV shows, a lot of, you know, things that are coming about are really, really nerdy things.
Yeah. Well, you have Arcane too from League of Legends lore, I believe, and you know it's massive on Netflix, I believe, and I just Amazon trying to match one for one. You know what I mean? Like they're just looking for their own thing, and they might have spun a deal. You know, Amazon might have spun a deal with Wizards to be like, make the shit go away, and we'll do this and this and this. You know, who knows? But this is just cool. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, like imagine it's like, I don't know, but I mean, think about it in the sense where it's like, you know, let's say we all play like EA PGA Tour, right? And we all play it a lot and then just randomly get popular for playing that game. And then in like 10 years from now, the group of people that just started by playing the game for fun are now running golf tournaments and, you know, and donating money to charity and having their own like talk shows on TV. And like, that's kind of how this is. You know what I mean? It was just a group of nerds who got together to nerd out and now have television shows on Amazon. fucking like decent animation. I don't know if you saw the animation for it, but it looks fucking good.
Well, like, I mean, Amazon has a lot of money and they can put a lot of money into production, so hopefully they don't screw it up.
Hopefully. I mean, the more money these companies have, the less they care if something fails. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They can ditch it, not worry about it. Google. Google. Just everything gets axed. If it doesn't make money, it gets axed.
What did Netflix say? This was like last week. Like, we don't cancel good shows or something like that.
Bro, shut the fuck up.
Like, are you fucking kidding me?
No, the exact quote was, "We have never canceled a successful show ever."
Oh, so not a good show. Just
yes, and that's my thing. Is like there's a difference.
It doesn't mean that it's good.
Exactly. Like there's two completely different things. Like, and I almost thought he was jabbing at me personally because like I wrote a text or a tweet where it's like, you know, I can't, like, they always cancel the good shit. Like, I wanted to see this Messiah show, and that was the night that I was like texting you about it. Have you seen this shit? Where it's kind of a corny show, but it was acted straight, you know, and it left you kind of intrigued. It's like this character is perceived to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, and it's just kind of one of those suspense, like, curious, you know, is he real, is he not real? And then at the end, you'd be like, oh, based on some of the wording used, like, he could actually be the Antichrist. Like, that'd be interesting, you know? And then they just cancel the show. And it's like, well, fuck. So it's like, just because it's not popular doesn't mean that, you know, people out there aren't interested and don't think that it's, like, good compared to other trash, you know?
So then what happened to, oh, no, I was thinking Westworld, but then we're talking about Netflix. Never mind.
What about Headhunters? We can use Headhunters or whatever. Oh, not Headhunters, Mindhunter. That's have you seen that?
No.
Ooh, yeah, super good, bro. It's about the first like FBI agents that were, I wouldn't even say assigned, but self-motivated to interview and try to dissect the minds of serial killers. So you get like Ed Kemper, which is fucked. Super fucked. Holy shit fucked. Like, I'm not even going to get into like all the other little like killers and shit they get into, but it only lasted for like a couple seasons. There was other people that they interviewed, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember the Ed Kemper one was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. But the show is about like this whole like pushback of them even giving them the time of day. Like, why even bother talking to this crazy fuck? You know what I mean? Like, who gives a shit? Let him rot in prison. The shit that he did is unmentionable. But instead, you got this like over ambitious and curious FBI rookie who wants to interview these people and understand why they do what they do. So Mindhunter, highly recommend. Super, super well received. Canceled after the second season for like no reason. So I don't know what the fuck that dude's talking about, but they do absolutely cancel what I perceive to be successful shows. Unlike Messiah. It's not that great. It's like a 6, but I'll take it. I just wish they would have stuck with it. The Earth is doomed as scientists state the Earth's core has stopped spinning and may begin going in reverse. What the fuck?
I shouldn't laugh because it's really happening.
There's nothing you can
Are we
do.
gonna like reverse spin our axis?
No, I think what would happen was that the magnetic field would rotate. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that like what happens? Is like the magnetic field would rotate. That's something that they've been talking about for like a decade and shit happening. But yeah, I mean, I don't. All I know is that it doesn't sound good, and it sounds way out of our control. You know what I mean? Is it going to cause more, tectonic activity? Is it going to cause weird weather anomalies?
Coming, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you're in not a great area.
Yeah, I know. Well, Monday we just had an earthquake in Malibu. That thing was like a 4 point something in the morning.
Yikes!
I didn't feel it though, but it was off the ocean, Malibu.
Yeah,
Malibu.
I mean that's just commonplace down there. You know what I mean? You get
It's
one
gonna
drop
be great.
in
I might become beachfront property.
you just be out on the island, just floating out there.
Dope.
I think the act of it sinking in the sea would be a little bit more devastating than just breaking off and floating out there. But it's I'm over here, not too far away either. I'm in the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, you have actual volcanoes.
Yeah, you got. It's like Rainier is gigantic, bro. Like
It's huge.
Rainier is massive. I don't know if you saw it when you flew in, but like,
Yeah,
it is massive, and it's just kind of there. And like
and
when
I
you're
think
driving,
the
it's
pilot
there.
was like, over here you can see Mount Rainier. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
holy shit.
you can't miss it. But also, you look in the distance, you can see like Mount St. Helens, and then there's another volcano somewhere just past that, if I'm not mistaken. So like, yeah, this would be interesting on this West Coast if we start getting some activity with the whole bullshit. So
When the world's over is when you start saying I have a volcano going off, and
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's like 4 earthquakes happening right now.
yeah, when there's volcano going off up here and there's activity down there, then it's like, oh shit.
I'm just gonna go on the other side of Bishop, just hang out on that side of the
Right on the other side. Like, oh, I think that's the side that's gonna fall in. I mean, that's just concerning, to be honest. I don't know where to go from
I'm
that.
no scientist, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is bad.
I'm no scientist, but I think the Earth core not spinning is a bad thing.
The fact that the word ceased spinning is in an article that's not how you start off your day when you're drinking your cup of coffee.
HBO Max's Titans and Doom Patrol will be ending with their 4 seasons, wrapping up their storylines. After receiving flack online, James Gunn stated these decisions were made before his involvement with the DC.
Everything that ends is just all his fault.
Well, the second that he like took over, it's just like, okay, where's our layout for the next 10 years of DC movies? You said that by the beginning of the year we would know, they're dropping the whole like pedo shit and this and that, like, oh, are you promoting Shazam because there's kids in it? And it's like, bro, what are you talking about? Just
Gunn barely
deplorable
walks
shit.
in the door, wipes his feet, and they're already like, giving him shit.
Exactly. And he's like, well, surely you could have like stopped the shows from being canceled. And he's like, well, that's not how TV works. Like, that's not how that works.
Things don't run forever.
Yeah. It's like, that's just not how this works. And it's so hard. It's like people go to school to learn this industry. You know what I mean? People dedicate their lives to understanding the ins and outs of this industry. And then you got fucking, Bruce, who works in the fucking, cell phone department of Best Buy and shit, who's fucking over here being like, how come you just didn't do this? How come you just didn't do this? I'm like, how come you don't work in the fucking industry? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Because, like, it's never that simple in anything you do in life. You know what I mean? And to think it is, that you have this overall control because somebody, like, just, that's not how this works. You know what I mean? So, Doom Patrol is good. It's a unique type of viewing experience and something that's a little more lighthearted and funny. It's not like The Boys, but it's kind of like that Boys type vibe where it's miscreants,
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. Titans is like a joke. some of the costume design is dope, but really it's just another one of those DC TV shows that nobody's gonna miss after 2 or 3 years. But you still got the people save Doom Patrol, save hashtag save Titans, and hashtag fire James Gunn and all this shit. It's like, bro, like, what are you talking about? Just shut the fuck up. And then you got people being oh, oh, I thought you said that he could save the DC. Right now, it just looks like he's destroying it. And it's like, they have not released a single thing yet. the DCU has not started. Shazam needs to release. Aquaman 2 needs to release. Flash needs to release, and then disappear. And then you start the DCU. Like, we still have movies that we have to release because the money has been spent. You know what I mean? Like, these people are just so like delusional. It's absurd listening. But
people gotta get paid, man.
Yeah, James Gunn firing back as he always does on the Twitters. Niantic once again chases the popularity of Pokemon Go with the release of NBA All World, but falls short, delivering similar systems to Wizards Unite, the recently scrapped mobile game from the same developer. I know you fucking like despise Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah, I did.
Let us know how much you hate Pokemon
Go. It's just one of those things. I like I said, I never actually played Pokemon, and then seeing people playing Pokemon Go with their phones in their hand, running into walls, coming in to work with injuries for playing a stupid ass video game. Yeah. And I've seen some gnarly shit happen to people. I just can't.
Oh, people getting shot at for being on private property. People falling in fucking like storm mains and shit. People falling in
what were you doing over here? I was trying to catch a Pikachu. And
yeah,
it's like, you
trying to get
idiot.
a fucking Snorlax and shit. Yeah, there were definitely people. There's always people that go super sweaty, obviously, but
didn't people get hit by cars for walking in the middle of the street?
No, yeah, 100%. There's a guy on the internet famously who plays like 63 cell phones that he has set up.
They're all
on this
tethered together, right?
Bicycle, yeah. They're like on this like framework that he has.
See?
Through the small little crack. There's a little crack in the middle. You can see through. He got one of those Samsung clear phones in the middle and shit.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, there's always sweat lords, dude, for sure. Like I told you, I'm like the lowest level out of everybody. Like my brother-in-law, my friends back home, like Gary and shit, Rico. Sister-in-law, my chick, fucking baby has a higher level than me and shit. But it's like, I still enjoyed it for what it was, where it's like, if I'm sitting doing nothing, I could whip it out and find some type of something to do. That is specific for the environment that I'm in. You know what I mean? It's I'm sitting in a waiting room in a fucking hospital or DMV or some shit. Shit might be there that I wouldn't have access to sitting in my house or, being at the store and shit. So it's always like fun to like whip it out. Like, oh shit, this thing's here. Let me get it real quick.
Please don't whip it out.
But it's like, you.
What I'm saying is, okay, they're releasing an NBA All World one, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same exact concept as Pokemon Go. So what you're supposed to do is just play basketball on like the street.
So you want me to lay it out for you what it is?
Can you lay it out for me?
Okay.
Break it down.
So the way Niantic games work is that it tracks your every fucking movement, which is super sus.
Okay.
And based Chinese, on like the stock, yes. I mean, I think they're from the East Coast or the East Coast, so it's at least American, but it's not. I think it's a subsidiary of Google, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. But they track your movements. They got like you've seen the map where you're like walking through, shows you where you're at and shit, and shows all the streets around you. And like in Pokemon, there's Pokestops, places you go to spin the little thing, and you get materials to continue playing the game. So it encourages people to like walk around and like go visit shit. And they got like raids, like gyms where you go and you put your Pokemon in to defend it, and people can fight it, and then you can fight back and yada yada. And the way that the NBA All World does is you unlock a character, which is a player, some shit player, and then you choose your team, Lakers, what up? And then I'm an LA boy, for really relaxed. So like your little character is wherever you're at on the map, just like Pokemon Go. And then like Pokemon, other players from the NBA will pop up in varying levels of difficulty, standing there with their little animations, like bouncing the ball or like
not gonna lie, it looks like drug deals happening on the street.
So like there's little things that pop up that you click to accumulate money that you use to like level up players that you get by beating them. And when you go and you interact with one of the players that's within your zone, like your little radius where they pop up, they spawn, air quote. It's like, I want to play like LeBron James. I see him standing there in the fucking alley. I'm like, yo, what up, bitch? And I walk up on him and I challenge him to like a 3-point shoot off where you got 45 seconds. And it's like your NBA 2K where it's the bar, you hold down the button, you let go of the bar and you hit it in the sweet spot and you'll make the shots. Okay. So you have these little mini games like that. Some of them will be like a one-on-one and you swipe left, swipe right to try to juke the defender, and then you could drive home for like a dunk, or you could try to shake him up a little bit and bang out a 2-pointer or 3-pointer jumper or whatever. So the little mini games.
You power up.
And then when you beat, that character, like let's say I beat like LeBron James, then he gets like added to my roster, I believe. But you need to like level your character up before you can unlock different tiers of players to actually use. And your character has the stats that are reflected by how shitty that player is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
okay.
The better player that you have, the bigger the sweet spot is to make the shots, the easier it is for you to juke and yada yada. My issue is that it has an energy system, and I'll rail on this until the day I fucking die or they remove it from the game's energy system, where it's like it takes 20 energy every time that you play, and then you have 100 energy for the day. And then it takes 12 hours for your energy bar to fill back up. You know what I mean?
What?
If you want more energy, you got to buy it, though. Or you can walk your ass down to the gas station and spin the stop to maybe get some energy so that you can play for another 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Drink?
It's one of those where it's like it makes it incredibly inconvenient for you to even play the game unless you were to pay. And the way that like Pokemon does it, they got the Pokeballs. You can't throw Pokeballs if you don't have Pokeballs. But you get, Pokeballs when you spin stops and you do these little like side missions, or you do this and that and this and that. But it's a lot more forgiving, and it's not as like try hardy. And every game since Wizards Unite for Harry Potter was the same thing. You're your own wizard. You walk around and weird shit pops up for you to battle and add to your book, like a picture book. It's very strange.
Wow.
But it was the same premise. It's like you run out of energy. Now you can't play anymore until you go get some more energy. So this one was like I was taking jumpers trying to like play this full, and I was progressively losing energy mid-match. So that the longer I played in this little 45-second match, by the end of it, I had no energy and I was bricking every shot. There was like no way for me to make it. And then the level 2 out of 5 character that I was fighting or playing against
was whooping your ass.
He had 12 buckets in 45 seconds. I think he missed like 2 shots. And I was like, this is a level 2. Like, this is impossible. It's like, so the balance is, apparently it is, 100% it is. But the balance is fucked. The energy system is fucked. The concept is actually kind of cool. I like the mini games, but they got that little bit of lag to where it just doesn't make it feel like smooth.
Well, apparently it looks like what I'm reading is that your shirt, your pants, and your shoes affect your gameplay.
Oh yeah, they have all that. All that shit's gamified. You get like jerseys and like all that shit. Oh, there's a mini store, 100%.
My shirt gives me 10 plus. Yeah, what is that?
Get some jumps.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, like the animations, the swipe left, swipe right to try to juke, double tap to do like a fake. Like those little mini games are fun to play, but it seems like they made a really decent system and then they threw like just shit stats at it. I'm like, I shouldn't get there was no way for me to get around Defender at one point, and it was this
they
person
want you to spend money.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you gotta get better. Where are you getting? You need some new shoes. You need to get some new shoes.
Get them shoes.
That's $19.99, bro. That's $19.99. I'm telling you right now. And then you spend money, and it's only really makes a difference for another like 2 hours of gameplay, and then you level out of whatever you get, and then you need more, and it's predatory. So
that's not worth my battery on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, the concept is good, but again, Niantic, just the greed, they can't get past it. Last one on here, Pokemon's Kadabra.
God damn, dude. Which Pokemon we gonna go over? Kadabra?
Pokemon's Kadabra makes its return to Pokemon TGC after a 20-year standoff, or about 20 year, with an illusionist, Uri Geller, who claimed the character had been created around his likeness. Uri Geller is a magician from like back in the day who was the one known for like bending spoons with his mind. Like you saw this trick be done in Matrix, right? You know, just the spoon is not there, and like the spinning and shit. He did that. It's a magic trick. It's like he invented it and stuff. And then Kadabra, you don't know the characters, but there's Abra, which is the baby version of it. And then the middle evolve is Kadabra, and then
I was gonna say Cad, and then the big one is Abra.
Bro.
Abra, and then Kada, and then Bro.
Yeah, Kada, and then Bro. Then it's Alakazam is the main evolve. Alakazam and Abra have been in the trading card game since, you know, its launch, but Kadabra, because of the likeness, has been like barred from use and like all this shit. It's been like
a card has been barred from use.
Just the character in general, like the character exists.
That's an illegal character you cannot use.
Yeah, well, like they don't even make. I think they did make Kadabra cards back in the day for like the first few years, and then once the legalities jumped in, then like they just couldn't use the character.
What
at all.
legalities though?
The character had spoons in his hands that, you know,
and I have
were
spoons
bent.
in my hands. That's after me.
But that was like that was like the Pokemon's like shtick, was that he had these spoons, and it was clear that he was doing a magic trick, bending the spoons with his mind, because they're psychic type Pokemon. So it was just visionary, or, you know, visual. So, you know, he got all up in arms and just has kind of barred it, and it's been in a standoff situation. But
so never make a character that has bent spoons in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, you got Pokemon TGC players out there. I'm sure it'll be like, oh shit, Kadabra's coming back. But yeah, that was some stupid bullshit, because this dude literally thought that the Pokemon was like him and shit. So I mean, that's it for the roundup. Not that big. You know, we bullshit a little bit, but you know, it's a pretty light week. Anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, you're still depressed about Rick and Morty and fucking whatever. Roiland is definitely in the creeper category right now for sure. Don't think he's gonna escape, but we will see.
Put my life-size poster away of Justin Roiland.
Just tore it down. God, what was that movie? I forget what it was, but you know, it is what it is. Like I said, pack them away. It might be worth some money at some point. Either that, or it'll be like incriminating and shit.
Probably. I'll keep it.
But yeah, a little plug here in and out the show. You can find us at Nerd Chatter Show on pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find Nerd Chatter Podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, including Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, and basically anywhere else you can find podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and follow while you're there. Much appreciate that. All of our episodes are uploaded onto our YouTube channel, where you can also check out our weekly live streams playing various games and drinking and shit. If you can support us on there with a sub and like, that'd be much appreciated, and help us grow a little bit. If you'd like to support the show, you can head on over to our Discord and join the community over there. We got a bot right now that's still working, delivering free game links, and I think, just check here.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, it's working. But the bot does deliver articles from, you know, the retweets that we do and the stuff that we talk about on the show. So if you want to check up on any of the roundup stories, you can always check out the Discord or our Twitter channel. You can also support us by heading on over to our Patreon. We're going to start doing some watch-along parties and some commentary tracks, and we got some other segments and stuff that, you know, we offer people that are interested in that good stuff. And that pretty much rounds it up today. Lucas, my buddy, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see you not next week, but I will see you the following week.
Yeah, you're an every 2 week type of guy. You got your work schedule and all that. You got your other little podcast thing going on too, right?
Oh, yeah. Working on that every week with the sports podcast.
Motherfucker didn't even invite me or send me any links or anything and shit.
I posted on my Instagram. Link is posted on Instagram.
That's how I found it out, because I was like, well, fuck's this full posting and shit. And it was like one of those stories or whatever. I'm 165 years old, bro. I do not fucking have time for any of those shorts or whatever and shit. And then I looked at your profile, and there was nothing there about it. There was no links in your description. There was no nothing and shit. So you need to get.
I don't like the fact that you can only add one link
Well,
So I gotta make a link tree.
Yeah, get a link tree.
You gotta show me how to do that. I'm a boomer. I don't know how to do it.
It's pretty easy, actually. I'm actually surprised at how easy that is. But
what's
the name of the show?
Too. I gotta boom on that one too. Third Stringers podcast, the SoCal Sports podcast.
Yeah, SoCal Sports. I listened to it a little bit, and I was like, it's probably easier sitting in the same room and shit.
It is actually, because you're able to feed off of each other. But you know what? It's working. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you.
We'll have you in here in every couple weeks to talk about some nerd shit and all that good stuff.
Hopefully Kenny returns.
Kenny was supposed to be here this week, but he has family shit.
Prior arrangements.
Whatever, bro. Fuck, whatever.
Whatever, Kenny.
Whatever.
Fuck off, Kenny.
I mean, we'll be pretty active. I'm not sure where you're going to be sitting when EA PGA Tour comes out. We're going to be on PC, so I don't even think there's going to be a way of us playing together, to be honest.
You're going to make me get a gaming PC, aren't you?
I mean, Kenny's idea of you getting a Steam Deck is actually a fucking solid idea, bro. Like, to be honest, if you don't want a PC, a Steam Deck is fucking baller. It's like $700 for the biggest version. It's a little mini computer. You can do a lot with it. You could cram a bunch of shit into it and basically make it a computer. You can play fucking Epic games. You can play Origin games. And then you got Steam where you can, buy games and have all that shit. And then one day when you get a PC, you can just...
that's in the library?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's forever. I mean, I got 600 and some odd games in my library that I've had for like 15 years. You know what I mean? So, it's an amazing piece of hardware for one thing. Like, for what it is, what it does, how crazy it is. And then you just dock it, bro, if you want to watch it on your TV. And if need be, there's ways to get that onto your computer, so you could use your monitor to play it, and it's a good idea. He threw me for. I was like, oh shit, that's true.
That's actually not a bad thing. Yeah,
it's not bad.
I can't afford to have another heater in here and running.
Yeah, no, it'll fuck you up if it's a console. It's a pretty hefty beast. But yeah, I mean, that's a good idea, especially if you're just focusing on gaming. You dock it and you hook it up to a mouse and keyboard, and you basically have a desktop, and it outputs in I believe 1080, if not higher, so not a bad idea.
Yeah, we'll see. But for sure, I'm gonna have to jump on that EA though, because
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I only have an Xbox. I don't even have a series, I have the Xbox One, so I'm not buying any fucking game for that thing. And I'm not buying an Xbox Series X because I already have... How loud
is that thing when it turns on?
It's not that loud. It just takes a while to turn on or do anything. But I'm not buying any console just to play it. And if I did buy a console, like my fucking mom bought a PS5, bro. What the fuck?
Why?
Because she wants it to be around probably when the grandkids come over and shit, But... she's like, look what I got. And I was like, that is a $600 PS5. It's like, what the fuck?
Like, what? Sitting down playing COD right now?
I'm like, she's like, how do you even put games on this thing? I
was
like,
oh my God.
I'm about to block my own mom.
I'm touching the TV. It's not responding.
Yeah, and I'm over here like wanting a PS5 for 2.5 years or whatever. First time I see one out in the wild is like 2 weeks before Christmas.
And it was one.
And then she's just like, oh yeah, we got it. She got like the God of War bundle set.
She got the God of War edition?
Yeah.
Let me get that controller.
Yeah. It's pretty it's a good deal that she got. And she's like, I heard that these are hard to get. And I was like, not anymore.
Apparently, if you could get one.
So
I had to go to the dark web to get mine.
the things I had to do.
I cannot speak of it.
So like, my thing is like, if I were to get a console, it'd be a PS5. Kenny, I don't think has a PS5, so that would already separate who plays with who. And then, I heard recently that they're already working on a more compact, quieter, and less hot version of the PS5. So I would
they were talking about not changing the internals, but just taking out the disk drive and making it slimmer. Well, a PS5 slim. They got to make everything slim.
Yeah, if it has I'm gonna go with whatever has the 4K drive, because that's like the biggest reason to get one, to be honest.
Exactly.
For me, it's like $300 and some odd for just a 4K player,
Yeah.
So, and that's the one she got, and I was like, oh, I bet you that's nice. Whatever. I'm not even mad, bro. I'm not even mad.
Are you sure, bro?
No, I'm not even.
You sound pretty happy to me.
Fucking chilling, bro. Whatever.
Good on her. Good for her.
So yeah, I mean, if you get a Steam Deck, then we can all play together, and that'd be dope. But if not, and you could play while you're on the shitter if you had a Steam Deck. Just think about that. You could play multiplayer.
Dude, I already don't leave the shitter after that shit. Just scrolling through.
You're like, where do you think I keep my PS5? Well, that's where it already is. So, all right, we're gonna call it there. You guys take it easy.
See you guys later.